and welcome along to our Wednesday night session, where these sessions are all about doing the things that us runners perhaps don't like to do, but we know we need to do them. We know how important they are. So those three things that I've highlighted that I don't like to do, and perhaps you don't like to do, are to strengthen, to stretch, and to roll. I know what we like to do is get out there and run, but by doing these things, by strengthening, stretching, and rolling, we know that we're going to be able to run for longer, we're going to be able to run faster, and we're going to be able to run pain-free. So what I wanted to do was set this time aside that we can all be accountable, we can all contribute 15 to 20 minutes of our time to make sure we get these things done, as much as I appreciate we might not like to do them. So what we're talking about today is the lower leg, or in particular the foot and ankle. Now, before we get going, I want to explain why I think this is so important that we are working on this movement at the ankle. And the movement at the ankle that is so important is what we call dorsiflexion. And this is where we drive our knee over our toe. And the reason that this is so important when we're running is as we drive our knee over our toe, it propels us forward to run. So if we have a problem with this movement, if there's a dysfunction at the foot and ankle at this point, what can happen is extra muscles have to work hard to create that propulsion. So what we really want to be making sure is that everything around this area is working well. And that's why I wanted to focus this session today on making sure that we've got everything right. So what I want to do before we even get going on the strengthening, the stretching and the rolling is just to have a quick test of how good we are, how much dorsiflexion we've got. Now, I'm about to show you that now and get you guys to do that yourselves. But just a reminder, in the title of this video, there's our free page for runners at the johnwsportsinjuries.co.uk/running. Head on over there because there is a video on how to assess your flexibility once we finish today if we forget any of this, and it covers all of the lower limb flexibility. But we are going to get going looking at that lower limb, that dorsiflexion movement. So what you want to do is you want to find yourself a wall. You want to place your toe up against the wall first of all. Now what we should be able to do from this point is take our knee so it touches the wall. You'll notice that my heel is firmly placed on the floor. Throughout this test, it needs to remain on the floor. Now, what I now want to work out is how far away from the wall can I get and still maintain this position. So you see I'm coming further away from the wall and I can still hit. Now, move back very slowly, 1 millimeter increments, because it's going to start to get much harder quite quickly. And you can see now I'm right at my maximum. So if I went any further back, I don't hit now and I need to lift forward in order to hit. So I know that on my right hand side, that is my maximum. Now, we looked at good dorsiflexion to be around 10 centimeters, that distance from the wall to the toe. Compare that to the other side. So you can see straight away with me, if I go to that same distance, I don't get my knee to the wall. So I know I'm reduced in dorsiflexion on this side. And when I'm running, have a guess at which side I get my injuries in if they do occur? Through the left-hand side, because I've got this problem at the base. We can't build a house on bad foundations, and that's how we have to think as runners. If we've got bad foundations, there's going to be problems further up the chain, and that is what happens with me, and that's come on a lot. I'm working on that, but that's what you want to be highlighting if you've got any differences straight away during that test. So as remember, there is a couple of other tests that we can do around that you'll find on that video at that free page at the running. But what I want to do now is get cracking into some of those strength exercises. And the first two exercises we're going to talk through today, I just think really summarise the running motion. So if we can get strong in these, we know they're going to help us as runners. And the first exercise is a single leg calf raise. Now again, you can start off by holding onto a wall. What you do is you place one foot behind the other and then you just lift that foot up. Okay, and what you're looking to do is just hold it at the top and come back down. Now if that's feeling easy, what I want you to do now is try and do the same thing, taking the hands away. So can we come up and hold? Can you maintain that? You'll feel the calf muscle working, having to control that movement. And we're going to do 6 of these, guys. So just let me know, drop a line in the comments. Is this easy to do holding on? Is this easy to do not holding on? How was your movement at the ankle? Are you restricted on one side or the other? Let me know in the comments if you're finding yourself tighter in one side than the other. Good, that's 4. That's 5. And that's 6. Good. We're going to do 6 of each repetition as it's a single leg exercise. So now we're going to take it onto the other side. Okay, and you'll notice probably with me, I find this more difficult. I'm a little bit more wobbly because that ankle's a little bit weaker, as I alluded to. So that's 2. Good. Going all the way through. Holding it at the top for a few seconds, making sure that it's working. But if you think this is very much the propulsion phase of our running. So as we're propelling ourselves forward, if we're strong in this motion, it makes sense that we're going to be stronger when we're out there at running. Good, and all the way up. Last repetition. Good, and just shake those legs out because we're just going to go through those again. Now on the single leg exercises, I sometimes like to do those a little bit less. So we're going to do 2 sets of these exercises today. Okay, so we're going to go back and compare. Now what you're looking for, have we still got that control, or have you started to fatigue on the second set? Are we finding this a little bit more difficult now, which might be an indicator that we're a little bit weak? So if we got through the first set, but now we're finding the second set to be much more difficult, we know that this is an area we can strengthen, and that's going to allow us to run for longer without any problems setting in. 5, and 1 more. 6, good, and then we're just going to change over, and we come up on 1. And what I want you to do, guys, is carry on these sessions when you can. Try and be doing these as much as possible. As I say, it's great that we're turning up to do these once a week, but you can do these more. But when it comes to the strength exercises, I always recommend having at least a day off in between. A day off for those adaptations to happen, the strength changes to happen, and also to see if there's any problem, if you've overdone it and stuff. But things like the stretching and rolling that we're going to come on to, you can be doing that every day. Good, and just shake out those legs. Good, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go into a single leg squat, which is a great exercise for all of the lower limb, but what it does do is test that ankle strength. And the way we're going to do this to test the ankle strength a little bit more is we're going to come onto one foot, and what I want you to do, in fact I'm going to have to step back a little bit, is just step forward and try and touch your heel. So that's just my heel, and then I come back. And what I'm looking to do is, how far can I get forwards on that side? Because the distance that I can go forwards is really being governed by that right ankle and how much stability I've got in this ankle, in that standing ankle. That's 4, good, that's 5, and 1 more, 6, good, and change it over. So again, now we're going straight into a direct comparison. So what are you guys finding here? Let me know again. Any comments I will come back to, guys. You'll say it's more difficult for me to answer these than on our live Q&As, but let me know how you're finding these, because for me, that left side, I just find that a bit more difficult. I had a bad ankle sprain previously that I'm still coming back from and rehabbing. So this highlights for me the areas that I need to do. Relax, I can't quite get as far forward on that side. So just shake those out, and then we'll go on to the other one. Same things apply here, guys. Now we're into that second set. Are you finding it a little bit more difficult? Are you finding that those legs are really starting to feel a little bit of a burn through the calf areas, all the thigh areas and things? It's just an indicator of things that we can do. Good. Keep going through. 2 more. Good. And the last one. And in terms of the running, guys, I said that the calf raise was the propulsion phase of our run. This single leg squat is really that landing phase. So if we're strong in a single leg squat, strong in a calf raise, then we know that we're quite good to go through that, what we call the gait, as we go through our running motion. Last set on this side, my weaker side. One thing you want to concentrate on as well is your knee. Something I've spoken a lot about to you guys about is that the knee's a joint that gets beaten up by other areas. So you can see that my knee has a little bit of a wobble on this side where it's not on the strong foundation. You can see the importance of that foundation. So if you were to guess, if I was to have more knee trouble on one side than the other, looking at this form here, I know that that's something I need to work on and keep strengthening. So now what we're going to do is go into our stretches for that lower limb. Okay, and these are a great ones to do. For us as runners, running, particularly if we're running on concrete surfaces, we bring a lot of impact force up into the body. The first thing to be absorbing that force is this calf complex, which involves your gastrocnemius and your soleus. So particularly when we finish a run, very important that we're stretching these out, but then stretching these out regularly throughout the week. So what I want you to do is just to find a wall, place one foot in front of the other one. Okay, as big a distance as possible, but with both heels on the floor. Then we just bend that front leg, and it's that back leg that you should then feel stretching in that calf. This is in particular your gastrocnemius muscle that we're holding here. We want to be holding these for 30 seconds as we go through. All the way through. 15 seconds. 5 more seconds. And then slowly come out of that. Remember, just come slowly out of stretches. You're taking your muscles onto full stretch, so we don't want to be bouncing, we don't want to be pinging out of these. One thing to check, guys, make sure all those toes are forward. A lot of the time when I'm working with people, perhaps in clinic on this, they go into this stretch, they just kick that back heel out. And that really sort of takes a lot of the muscle off stretch. The other thing that does is lifting that heel. You want it straight and you want the heel down as we just push through. Work, guys. Hopefully you're feeling that in that back of the leg. Again, let me know, is the left tighter than the right? Do you feel that one more than the other? That's the area to spend a little bit of extra time. And then we'll come out of that and we'll just change over. We'll go into that one again. Good, just looking to push through there. You might find on the second set, when it comes to stretching, you can get a little bit further. You've got a little bit more range at that ankle. Yeah, we've got 10 seconds to go on this one. And then just slowly come up and out of it, and then we're into this last one. Just pushing through. Quick check that all those toes are straight, back heels on the floor, feeling that stretch in the correct area, which is that gastrocnemius. We've got 10 more seconds. Keep that stretch on. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now what I want to go into is sometimes what I call the forgotten muscle in that calf complex, which is your soleus. So another muscle that uses that Achilles tendon, part of the calf complex. But when we're stretching in a conventional way, the way we just did, it really picks up that gastrocnemius. What I want you to do is the same sort of stretch, but my feet are a bit closer together now. Still heels on the floor, still toes pointing forwards. But this time what we do is we just bend that back leg. It's almost like I'm trying to sit back onto a chair behind me. And you should feel that in the same sort of area, but maybe slightly lower in there. And we'll just hold that stretch. Good. We've got 10 seconds to go on there. Hopefully you're feeling that one there. How does that compare to the calf? Is that tighter than the calf, than the gastrocnemius, or is this an easier one for you? It'd be good to know. And then slowly come out of that. We'll go into the other one. Good, so same thing, my toes are forwards, my heels are on the floor, and I'm just stretching through. Now what you might experience, what is common to experience in these sorts of stretches sometimes, is a pressure across the front of the ankle. Now that's not anything to worry about, that's quite typical, but it indicates that there's a tightness here, that there's a lack of mobility at that ankle. And what we want to do there is try and release that ankle a little bit. And this stretching will help, amongst other things. So what I'll do at the end today is I'll show you a sort of self-release if you are feeling that pressure across the front of the ankle, which is very common. It's where the joint can just be not have quite enough room to go into this motion. Good. And then we'll go back into the other side. Hold that one there. Again, you might be able to go a little bit deeper into that now to really feel that stretch. But if you're finding suddenly that this one's really tight, sometimes people say, I've always been good at stretching my calves, and then we do this stretch and they realise that they haven't been hitting the right muscle. So if that's you, this is a really good one to add into your repertoire. Good, just change the feet there, and we go through here. Let me know, guys, it's been a lovely day today. If you've been out running, let me know in the comments, let me know where you've been, let us know where you're joining from. Great to hear all of your running stories as well, seeing people join in from other countries, it's great to hear. So do let me know in the comments, I'll make sure I come back to each of them because I really appreciate those guys. Good, we've got 10 more seconds to go. 3, 2, 1, just slowly come out of that. Just want to do one more stretch through that calf area. Slightly more difficult this one, but I term this the sort of pike calf stretch because what we go down into is into this sort of high position here. Now remember, when we're stretching our calves, heels stay on the floor, so don't let those heels come up. But what you want to do is slowly walk your hands away from you until you can't go any further without lifting those heels. See, if I get to there, the heels follow, but if I come back, I get a real nice stretch through my calves there. And we're just going to hold this one. It's a real nice one to do for sort of 30 seconds. And again, one I like to do after a run to just get a good stretch in. Good, 10 more seconds. And just slowly wander your hands back as we come out of that stretch. Shake out those legs, and the last thing we're going to move into, everyone's favourite bit, the rolling, okay? So now whichever bits of equipment you've got, that's fine. I've got a lacrosse ball foam roller. I'm going to talk through both as we work into that calf, and I'm going to show you my favourite technique for rolling through that calf and some of the important areas in that lower leg that are often missed that we're going to try and hit today. So what we're going to do, whatever you've got, just place that underneath your leg. I'm going to start with the lacrosse ball. I like the intricacy of a lacrosse ball to really target those trigger points. Let me show you on this leg. Okay, and what I'm looking to do is just roll around that area. Now for me, I'm trying to find those trigger points. A common area for trigger points, guys, is about a third of the way up the leg. That's where the Achilles tendon joins the gastrocnemius. Typically, it can be worse on the outside. So maybe start around there. I've got a great trigger point right there that fires up to me straight away. So once we're on these points, what we want to do is we want to hold that. We're just going to hold that for 30 seconds. And this is what I call, I've mentioned before, our pin and stretch technique. So I've spoken about this before, but we look to pin that tissue. Use the pressure of my leg down onto the ball to pin that tissue. And then what I'm going to do is stretch it. So the way I do that is just take that ankle up into dorsiflexion. So I'm just bringing my toe up and I'm just going through this sort of pulsing motion as I go through. I'm looking to do 10 repetitions of that. So work my way through. Good. All the way through, all the way. You can do exactly the same with a foam roller, guys. When I go onto the other leg, I'm just going to do the same with a foam roller. Good, and then after that, what we can do is roll around and have a look for some other ones. Another thing to do is just be comparing the out to the in, because sometimes we can really suffer on the out, sometimes the in. The gastrocnemius is almost a muscle that's sort of compartmentalized into two muscles. So find where's those sore points, and we'll talk to those. So again, I've got one on the inside there, so I hold on there for a period of time. And then what I'm looking to do is just pulse that ankle through. Once I feel that tension settle, you'll just feel that stretch. And hopefully after this, you might feel a little bit sore through the area, but you'll just feel that tissue relax a little bit. We're just effectively telling our brain that it's okay to relax that tissue. We're just easing it through. Now again, I mentioned the soleus being a forgotten muscle. An even more forgotten muscle for us runners is a muscle called your tibialis posterior. Now I don't know if you've heard of this muscle, because it's a slightly strange name, but as almost exclusively to runners, we have a condition, PTTD, but effectively it's tibialis posterior tendon issues. And the tendons wrap around the inside of the foot here. So if you've been getting any pain on the inside of the ankle, it's very common that that comes from this tibialis posterior. Now, what I tend to say to people with that one is grab your thumbs and rub along the inside of your shin. So what I'm doing is I'm just tracing down through my shin here, and then if I drop about a few centimeters away from that inside, almost try and move your big gastrocnemius muscle out of the way, and you'll feel your tibialis posterior. So what you can do from that point is just really try to work into that tissue and get that one to relax. And again, we can do the same thing. You see, I'm just dorsiflexing that ankle when I'm on a sore point, just working that one through. All the way through, just going through 10 pulses, but a really, really important muscle to make sure that we're stretching out, because us runners, we definitely suffer in it, but it's difficult to get into work. So just apply a little bit of extra time in your rolling to work those ones. Then we do the same on the other side, guys. So I'm just going to change my tools, because if you've got a foam roller, we can do exactly the same with that one. So again, I'm going to look to move around. I tend to start in that first third of the leg, as I mentioned, or the top of the lower third. Once I find that sore point, I'm just holding on that, looking to stretch that through. Good. Keep that one working through. I'm going to do 10 reps of this. Once that's one more of those, hopefully feeling that tissue relax. That's certainly settled that one down a bit for me, which is great. And then I'm on to the inside. Again, can I find a sore point on the inside? Can I find a trigger point? There it is for me. Just going to hold on that. It's quite sore at the moment, but you'll find it almost gets a sort of numbing sensation. That will settle down a little bit. Once that starts to relax, that's when I then start pulsing that through. Good. Through. Couple more of those. Now you can do these as long as you like into that tissue. You find all the trigger points that are in there, look to work those out, but not forgetting that tibialis posterior. So again, big shin bone, your tibia on the front. Remember, tibialis posterior, posterior means back. It's basically the back of your shin bone. So what we do is we drop almost underneath and in that shin bone, move that calf tissue out the way, and then I just work through there. And if you find some sore points as you run down towards there, that's an indicator that this is a great place to get in with those thumbs and just try that pin and stretch technique to relax that one. Again, guys, over at that page that I mentioned, there's a free ebook, and that talks about some of the common injuries. So if you are worried, or if you think that this is something that you're suffering with, have a look at that ebook because there's some talk about it there. There's also a video, some videos on that page and within the ebook, and one of them talks about the most common injuries that we see for runners in clinic, and Tibialis Posterior is certainly one of those. So if you've been suffering with that inside the foot pain, get into that muscle and feel free to check out that information because there's further information for you. Now, one thing not to be forgotten is the plantar fasciitis. The plantar, if this sounds like a word you haven't experienced before, the plantar fasciitis is the bottom layer of the foot. So if I go back and just grab that model, what we've got here is a thick layer along the bottom of the foot that connects our heel to our toes. Now, I sometimes, if we're suffering with this, call this the hobble to the bathroom condition, because when we first wake up in the morning, that's when it can be really sore and we can have to hobble till we get going. Or if you've been sitting down for a period of time and then you start walking, it can be really sore through there. So what we want to be doing with this one is getting in and rolling that out. All the things we've been talking about, the stretching and the rolling of the tissue will be helping, but what we want to do is get into the bottom of that. So what we're looking to do here, so I'm just going to pop that shoe off. It's been a hot day, so it's probably good that you're joining me virtually rather than here, or there might be a few twitching noses. But we're just looking to work through and working that ball into the tissue. Now, the typical hot spots are just at the base of the heel and then also just into the arch of the foot. And that's where we want to be working into, because very, very typical to suffer this condition. So if you're not familiar with the term, I appreciate it sounds like a bit of a strange one, plantar fasciitis, but if you have been suffering, it's not one that you forget because it can be really sore. But it is correctable by working in and spending some time just using these devices to work in. And if you haven't got a lacrosse ball, a faux roller you might find to be too large, but you can use things like a hockey ball, a cricket ball, a baseball, a golf ball, or people have used deodorant cans, frozen drink bottles to really help out. And we can do that in both sides. Now, the final thing I just wanted to show you guys before I go is about that mobilization. If you were somebody who felt a little bit of pain at the ankle when you were doing those stretches at the start or testing your dorsiflexion, that can mean that the joint's a little bit jammed up. So what we look to do, in clinic is do manual manipulations, but you can look to try and self-manipulate the ankle a little bit back into the correct position. So if you've got anything like a band, this is just an elasticated band, sort of a TheraBand, but again, even things like a dressing gown cord or something you can wrap around your ankle will work. But what you look to do, okay, is to place that band around that bit where you felt the pressure, which is just the top of your ankle. It's what we call your subtalar joint, just in here. So you might be able to feel that joint, wrap the band around that. Now, with my other foot, what I look to do is I just look to apply the tension. So I put the tension on the band, as much tension as I like. And now what I can look to do is just lean forwards. And the resistance of the band can just be looking to pull those lower leg bones back a little bit and create some more space in the front. And you can take this through, so you can take this through going straight or also coming across onto the inside and going outwards onto the outside. This is a really nice one. If you do suffer with any of the ankle conditions, nice one to do before a run to make sure that you're not starting with it tight, but also after a run in case you've locked that joint up on the run. So if you are someone who experiences front of ankle pain, this would be a nice one for you to do to just mobilize that ankle through. Okay, and you can just spend a minute or two doing that. So, well guys, thanks for turning up. It's great to see loads of you joining me live, and if you're watching this on a replay, great to have you with us. As I said, the key for me is making ourselves accountable, turning up and doing these things that I know we don't enjoy as much. I know we want to get out on there and run, especially when the weather is as nice as it is at the moment. But I guarantee you, by spending some extra time on this, you'll be doing the ultimate thing you want to be doing, which is running faster, longer and pain-free. So check out, if you want to, some of the bits and pieces in the title of the description, that page for runners. If there's any questions that you have for me, please feel free to reach out to me and discuss them with me. But hopefully there's some resources to help you there. So thanks for joining me today. I look forward to catching up with you. Next week, I'm looking to do a session that focuses around the back and the core, talking about, again, some of the other things around there that can contribute to our running. So I look forward to seeing you then, guys. Have a great week. Enjoy those runs and make sure you let me know how they're all going. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining in.